A woman in her power doesn't compete. She creates gravity and everything moves toward her. Let me say this plain and slow, my friends. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to chase to be chosen. And you damn sure don't need to play dumb to be desired. We've been sold lies wrapped in lipstick, taught to perform instead of be, told to shrink so someone else could stand taller. But the truth, the women who get remembered don't follow scripts. They don't ask for space. They bend energy. They speak in vibration. They exist in such a grounded way, the world subtly adjusts itself around them. Because when a woman stops seeking attention and starts commanding presence, that's when it all shifts. That's when he stops looking around you and starts looking for you. That's when memory gets rewritten and desire gets rerouted. It's not a trick. It's a transmission. Before we go deeper, press that like button, hit subscribe. Not for me, for you, because this isn't another how to get a guy to text you back video. This is spiritual strategy, emotional architecture, the kind of stuff that rewires how you walk through the world. And if you've ever wondered why some women linger in a man's mind long after they've left the room, this is why. This is how. Hey ladies, imagine this. You walk into a quiet room, no music, no chatter, just stillness. You don't say a word, you don't force a smile, but something in your presence makes every head turn. Not because you're loud, not because you're dressed to scream, but because your energy arrived before you did. That's the art. That's the power. That's the frequency we're tuning into today. You see, most women are throwing glitter into the wind, hoping someone notices the sparkle, but sparkle fades, substance stays. Sparkle gets attention, but presence leaves a mark, the kind that shows up in his quiet moments. On his drive home, when he's brushing his teeth, when something reminds him of you and he hears your voice in a silence that never used to exist. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Let me tell you something, attraction lives in that same unconscious. You don't get remembered by being impressive. You get remembered by being felt. By slipping past the logic, past the checklist, and going straight into his nervous system. You don't need a perfect script. You don't need a new outfit. You need alignment. You need a way of being that says, I am already full. You're welcome to feel this frequency, but you don't get to control it. And let's be clear, we're not here to play games. This isn't about manipulation. This is about magnetism. This is about reclaiming the kind of inner power that doesn't scream, doesn't chase, and doesn't beg. It draws, it invites, it whispers, and still gets heard. We're going to have fun with this. We're going to unlock truths so sharp they cut through the noise. And as we do, you're going to start remembering who the hell you are, the woman who doesn't have to explain herself. The woman who walks like the room already knows her name. The woman who doesn't wait to be chosen because she is the choice. So stay with me because what's coming next, it's not about being attractive, it's about being unforgettable. And let's go. Number one, identity seduction. Speak to who he wants to become. A man doesn't fall for the woman who sees him as he is. He falls for the woman who reflects back who he dreams of becoming. Let that one land, my friends, because it's not about his reality. It's about his potential. And if you learn how to speak to that place in him, the version he's still chasing, still sculpting, still afraid to admit he wants to be, that's when he stops seeing you as a person and starts feeling you as a symbol. And see, most women are taught to impress him, to look the part, to be agreeable, to mirror his opinions so he feels understood. But let me ask you something. Does a mirror inspire you, or does it just reflect what you already know? The women men remember, the ones who haunt their memory years later, are not mirrors, they're portals. Imagine this, a man's walking through life like a sculptor holding a block of marble, heavy, unshaped. He knows there's something beautiful inside, but he doesn't know how to carve it. Then you come along, and instead of handing him another tool, you say something that shows him the finished statue, not by pointing it out, but by speaking to it like it already exists. You say, I like how you don't shrink when things get hard. Most people run, but you stay centered. And suddenly that part of him straightens up. You say, you're the type of man who leads without needing a spotlight. Yeah, when something in him feels seen, not for what he's done, but for who he's capable of being. That's identity seduction. That's soul level influence. Now I know what you might be thinking, but isn't that manipulative? What if I'm wrong about who he wants to be? Isn't this just telling him what he wants to hear? Here's the truth. Men don't fall in love with flattery. They fall in love with emotional resonance. You're not pretending. You're not fabricating. You're simply becoming the amplifier for the voice in his head he doesn't yet have the courage to believe. And Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And the woman who helps a man get closer to that version of himself, and that's the woman he fights for. That's the woman he craves. Let me give you something subtle and powerful. And instead of saying, "I love how smart you are," say, "The way you break things down, it makes people feel safe, like they can actually breathe again." Now, you're not complimenting his intelligence. You're tying his intelligence to impact, to identity. There's a difference between admiration and affirmation. One feeds ego. The other shapes evolution. When you master this kind of language, you stop being a nice conversation and you start becoming a turning point in his story. But here's the catch. You can't speak to who he wants to be if you're not walking in who you are. Your presence has to be anchored, rooted, intentional. Otherwise, your words fall flat. And so here's your work. Start by asking, who am I becoming? Because when you know your direction, you become magnetic to a man with purpose. And when you speak from clarity, you awaken his. When you own your future, you inspire him to chase his. This isn't about fixing him. It's about activating him. So remember this. The most attractive thing you can be to a man is the mirror that doesn't show his flaws, but his future. And what's coming next? Let's just say it's not about words anymore, and it's about what you leave unsaid. Stay with me. We're about to make it echo. And number 2, the echo trick, leave a thought unfinished. Don't always answer. Don't always complete the sentence. Let silence finish the seduction. You see, my friends, we've been told to be clear, director, predictable, but clarity is overrated in attraction. Mystery is where the obsession lives, because the human mind, it hates unfinished stories and it aches for resolution. That's the Zygarnik effect, the psychological truth that our brains cling hardest to the incomplete. And when you learn how to leave a thought hanging, he won't just hear your words, he'll replay them. Let's take this deeper. Imagine this, you're out with him, conversation flowing, energy light. You lean in with a sly smile and say, "You and me, that could get dangerous." Then you laugh, glance away, and shift the topic like it was nothing. But to him, it wasn't nothing. Now his brain is on fire. Dangerous how? What did she mean? Was that flirtation a warning, an invitation? And he won't ask, but he'll wonder over and over again. And here's the twist. You didn't even finish the sentence, and that's the trick. Most women fill the air. They chase connection with over-explanation, hoping if they say enough, something will stick. But power lives in the pause, in that little breath you don't take, in the sentence you leave unfinished, and in the question he has to ask himself. Because when a man has to imagine the ending, he becomes the author of his own obsession. And guess who stars in the story? You. But let me say this clearly. This isn't about playing games. It's about playing frequency. You're not withholding for control. You're creating space for curiosity to bloom. So the next time you're tempted to explain yourself, and don't. The next time you feel the urge to tie a bow on the moment, leave it hanging. Speak, then disappear. Laugh, then look away. Whisper something half finished. And watch how loud the silence becomes. Because when you learn to echo instead of explain, you don't just touch his mind, you haunt it. And coming up next, we're going to unlock a frequency so subtle, it hijacks his attention before he even knows what happened. Stay with me. We're just getting dangerous. And number 3, confidence isn't a look, it's a language. The body speaks what the soul believes, so if your shoulders sag with doubt, no lipstick will rewrite that. Let that hit, my friends, because you can say all the right words, wear all the right colors, master every seductive line in the book. But if your energy stutters, if your eyes dart, your voice trembles, your breath betrays you, he'll feel it, even if he doesn't know why, because confidence isn't a script. It's not a look, it's a language. And here's the dark truth. Most women today are fluent in performance, but broken in presence. You say, "I'm fine," but your tone says uncertainty. You wear the heel, but you walk like you're afraid of taking up space. You laugh too quickly, fill silences too fast, adjust your dress like you need permission to just be here. And the man, he may not consciously register the cracks, but his subconscious, it feels the fracture. Now imagine this, a lion enters the jungle. It doesn't roar, doesn't puff its chest, doesn't need to. It simply walks, slow, grounded, certain. And what happens? The jungle goes silent. That's not noise, that's not drama, that's undeniable energy. And that, my friends, is real feminine confidence. Not the loud kind, not the kind built on applause or validation, but the kind that walks into a room like, I don't need you to see me, I already know who I am. True confidence is not a showing, it's a knowing. You feel it in how she speaks with pauses instead of panic. You see it in how she holds eye contact, not to challenge, but to connect. You sense it in how she doesn't explain her choices. She owns them. And here's the beautiful part. Confidence isn't about perfection. It's about congruence. When your inner world aligns with your outer presence, people don't just listen. They lean in. So stop trying to be liked. Start being rooted. Because the woman who knows who she is, she doesn't need to chase validation. She radiates it. And what we're diving into next, it's not about how you move your body, it's about what moves through it. Stay with me. The language of power is just beginning. Number 4, your humor is your soft power. A woman who can laugh frees a man from the prison of pressure. Think about that one, my friends, because we live in a world where men are constantly on edge, expected to perform, provide, protect, prove. Every room he walks into is another silent competition, another checklist, another invisible weight on his shoulders. But then you walk in and you laugh, not at him, not for attention, but from that easy place inside you. That sparkle in your eyes, shoulder-rolling, unapologetic joy that says, I'm not here to impress, I'm here to enjoy. And in that moment, he exhales. Because a woman who can laugh, really laugh, becomes a breath of air in a world full of smoke. And see, most people confuse lightness with weakness. But here's the truth. Lightness is not a lack of depth. It's proof that you've gone deep enough to rise. Laughter disarms fear. It creates intimacy without trying. It says, I don't take myself too seriously, so you don't have to pretend around me either. And that, my friends, is rare, because most women are performing perfection, curated, controlled, careful. But a woman who can be goofy, witty, unfiltered, she's the one who feels safe, not because she has no edges, but because her softness isn't forced, it's earned. Denzel once said something like this: smile like you already know the outcome and it favors you. That's the vibe, that's power disguised as play. So when you're sitting with a man and things get quiet, don't fill the silence with fear. Smile, say something ridiculous, tease him with charm. Let your joy become the signal that says, this moment doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be real. Because when a woman brings light into a room, she doesn't just attract attention, she relieves it. And trust me, men remember the woman who made them laugh and think, and the one who carried both depth and levity, the one who brought peace wrapped in play. And next, we're going to hit something deeper, because once he's relaxed, that's when the real imprint begins. Stay with me. We're about to shift the frequency. So, number 5, the power of natural presence. Natural doesn't mean bare, it means unafraid. Let's slow that down, my friends, because too many women confuse natural with naked, and too many men have been accused of only loving the done-up version of beauty. But here's the truth, and it might surprise you. He's not obsessed with glam, and he's obsessed with real. Not real as in raw skin and no makeup. Real as in congruent, as in your energy matches your expression. Because true beauty, it's not curated, it's aligned. Think of a rose, and it doesn't push itself open. It doesn't need scaffolding or scripts. It just blooms. Why? Because it's rooted. That's the kind of natural I'm talking about. The kind of presence that says, this is me and I trust that's enough. Now let me make this clear. This isn't about choosing no makeup over full glam. It's about what frequency you're broadcasting underneath it. You could be in sweats and a messy bun and still stop a man in his tracks, or be in heels and red lipstick and still feel invisible. The difference, presence. Because when a woman walks in harmony with herself, when she's not adjusting, second-guessing, performing, People don't just notice her, they feel her. And here's the dark psychology secret. The more comfortable you are in your own skin, the more his subconscious registers you as safe. And safe isn't boring, it's magnetic. He doesn't fall for perfection. He falls for the permission your authenticity gives him to relax, to be real, to exhale. So don't rush to edit yourself, and don't hide your softness behind trends. And don't confuse natural with less than. Natural is power in stillness. It's the beauty that doesn't try, it trusts. You don't need to be louder, you need to be truer. Because when your presence is unforced, when your vibe says, this is who I am, take it or leave it, you become unforgettable. And coming up next, we're about to unravel one of the most psychologically potent forms of attraction, the one that works without touch, without words, and yet reaches the deepest. Stay with me, we're not done blooming. Number 6, intelligence that illuminates, not intimidates. Smart doesn't mean loud, it means insightful, it means precise, it means elegant. Let that one linger for a moment, my friends, because somewhere along the way, intelligent woman started to sound like intimidating woman. But let me say this with full chest. Wisdom is not a threat, it's a light. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the one who says the right thing at the right moment, in the right tone. See, being a thinker is beautiful, but being clear, that's rare. And here's where most people get it twisted. They think intelligence has to compete and that it has to prove itself. Be sharp, be dominant, be loud. But true feminine intelligence, it doesn't fight to be seen. It reveals. And think of the moon. The moon doesn't try to outshine the sun. It reflects light at the right time, in the right phase, in the right rhythm. And when it's full, it stops everything. And the tides shift, the night glows, the world softens. That's how you wield your mind, not to dominate, to illuminate. So don't weaponize your intellect. Don't turn it into a sword to cut him down. Turn it into a lens, a window, a soft clarity that cuts through noise and sees truth. Because here's the dark psychology insight. A man doesn't fall for the woman who knows everything, and he falls for the woman who knows how to say just enough to make him think deeper. Than she doesn't try to impress, and she sees through. And when a woman can ask a question that stops him in his tracks, when she can say something so quietly sharp that it pierces the fog in his head, that's not intimidation, that's activation. So yes, be smart, but more importantly, be intentional. Use your intelligence not as a microphone, but as a mirror. Reflect him, challenge him, elevate the conversation without ever raising your voice. Because the most attractive kind of brilliance is the one that doesn't demand attention. It commands respect. And next, we're going to unlock a force so ancient, so quietly powerful, it predates language itself. Stay with me, the mind is listening, but the soul, that's what we're about to reach. Number 7, your energy introduces you before your words. If you walk into a room begging to be seen, you won't be. But if you walk in already full, he won't forget. Now that, my friends, is the shift. Because the world taught you to show up with sparkle, with sound, with something to prove. But real feminine power, it's not in the splash, it's in the ocean beneath, quiet, vast, unshakable. See, most women try to perform presence, and they lift their chin, square their shoulders, memorize their lines. But that's not presence, that's posture. Presence is peace, and peace doesn't ask to be noticed. It is. A man can walk into a room full of beauty and noise dressed up like beauty, but the one who stills him, the one who changes the temperature of the room without saying a word, that's the woman whose energy introduces her first. She doesn't rush to greet. She doesn't shrink to please. She doesn't chase the vibe. She becomes it. And because here's the dark truth. Men aren't starving for performance. They're starving for peace. And your calm, that's your currency. It says, I am not waiting for validation to feel full. It says, I don't need to be the center of the room. I already center myself. And when a man meets that energy, he doesn't just see you. He feels drawn. Think of the ocean. It doesn't announce itself and it doesn't jump for attention, but step too close and you feel the pull. That's you when your energy is anchored. So check your breath, check your rhythm. When you walk into a space, are you entering to be seen and or to settle? Because a woman who's grounded, truly grounded, she doesn't need to speak first. And her energy arrives before her name. Number 8, feminine energy isn't weak, it's weaponry. You don't chase love, you become it. Let that one sink all the way into your bones, my friends, because we've reached the root, the core of everything we've been building toward, the truth that changes everything, not just in how men see you, but in how you see yourself. See, you've been lied to, told that feminine energy was weakness, told that softness meant surrender, told that if you didn't lead with control, you'd be left behind. They taught you to harden, to compete like a man, to protect, to perform, to prove your worth through independence, logic, and hustle. But in doing so, you disconnected from your most lethal gift, because feminine energy is not frail. It's weaponry. It births life, and it moves oceans, and it whispers, and entire empires listen. And here's the secret nobody wants to say out loud. Feminine energy doesn't need to fight for attention, and it holds it. Like gravity, you walk into the room and the air bends, not because you demanded it, but because your being spoke louder than any voice could. You become the woman who doesn't chase love because she radiates it, and the woman who doesn't run after approval because she already embodies worth. Let me give you an image. Imagine a candle in a dark room, and it doesn't scream, it doesn't wave its hands, it simply glows. And everything in the room rearranges itself around that glow. That's what your feminine energy does when you stop trying to force attraction and start learning how to feel into it. Because here's what they don't teach you in school and dating books or on your timeline. Masculine energy chases, but it only chases what invites. Feminine energy doesn't ask, and it allows. It's not the storm. It's the still lake that swallows lightning and reflects the sky. And let me be clear, this is not about shrinking. This is not about being quiet or passive or small, and this is about knowing the power of your presence and no longer giving it away in pieces. Not to get picked, not to get chosen, not to be enough. Because when you are anchored in your feminine, you no longer move to be seen. You are seen because you've stopped moving for it. You don't need to compete with other women. You don't need to match a man's energy. You set the tone by being the frequency he didn't know he was starving for. And that's what makes you unforgettable. And not the makeup, not the outfit, not the script. It's the woman who walks into the room and needs nothing from it. That every man remembers. The one who's soft without apology, the one who feels like sanctuary, the one whose silence says, I'm not here to win you, I'm here to remind you who you are in my presence. Now let's talk real power. Power isn't always loud. Power doesn't push. Power isn't always in control. True power is influence. And feminine energy influences everything without raising its voice. And so from this moment forward, let go of the mask. Let go of the effort to prove you're confident. Let go of the myth that you must dominate to be respected. You're not here to be hardened. You're here to be holy. You're not here to fit into a box. You're here to bend the air around you. Because when you embrace your softness like the weapon it is, men don't just desire you, they reorient around you. And don't worry, next we're going even deeper. Because if this hits you in the chest, wait until you learn how to use this energy to imprint yourself into his emotional memory without even touching him. So here's the truth, my friends. Real attraction isn't about tactics. It's about energy. It's about who you are when you stop performing and start embodying. You don't need to chase, prove, or convince. You just need to return to your power. Quiet, grounded, unforgettable. If something in this video lit a fire in you, don't keep it to yourself. Press that like button, hit subscribe, and share this with another woman who's ready to stop shrinking and start commanding. Because we're not here to play small. We're here to shift rooms. Stay glowing, and I'll see you in the next one.